My name is Marceline Booker. I am 57 years old. I was born in a small town in Alabama and moved north when I was 20. I worked as a home health nurse for 33 years. I know how to hold a trembling hand, how to count pills, and how to sit with someone while they breathe their last. I also know how to keep my family together when it wants to fall apart. My husband, Darnell, ran a small real estate office in town. Our son, Jalen, is 32 and works as a school counselor. We have lived in the same quiet suburb for nearly 25 years. We are not rich. We are steady. We are ordinary. 2 days ago my life changed in a way I could not imagine. I still wake up some mornings thinking I am dreaming. I will tell you exactly how it happened, because I cannot carry this alone and because your likes and your voices matter to me. If you like the way I tell this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you will know when the next chapter comes out. Also tell me in the comments which part of the country you are watching from. I want to know who is with me when I tell the truth. It began with a phone call on a Tuesday. I was folding towels when the number flashed on my phone. The voice was official, steady. You won $50 million. I laughed at first because only other people in stories win that kind of money. I thought maybe my granddaughter had sent me a joke. But the woman on the phone read numbers and codes, asked questions only I could answer, and said again in a way that made my knees weak. $50 million. My hands dropped the towel. I sat down on the kitchen chair and I felt the floor move like a ship. I called Jalen. I told him to come over right away. He came in running, his tie half undone, shoes still on. His eyes were bright, like mine when I saw the numbers. We held each other in the doorway and the house felt like it was breathing with us. We made a plan that sounded silly and terrible and hopeful all at once. We would go to Darnell's office. We would tell him what happened. We would celebrate. We would tell him to quit whatever he hated and do the thing he always talked about. Maybe we would buy a little place on the coast the way we used to dream when we were young and broke and stubborn. Darnell's office was 2 blocks from the courthouse, an office with a faded sign and a coffee machine that never seemed to work right. Darnell was the kind of man who wore khakis and a cardigan, who smelled of pipe tobacco when he came in from the cold. He kept a picking tray of old business cards on his desk. He never bragged. He was practical. He was our anchor in small ways. I remember thinking as we walked to the building, about how steady he had been through surgeries, through layoffs, through my long nights at the hospital. I thought, this is going to make him smile. Jalen held my hand the whole way. He kept saying what if, and each what if sounded like a promise. When we got to the office, the lights were on. The door was cracked. I pushed it open and called Darnell by the nickname only I use when I want to be small and soft and close. No answer. The office smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. Jalen and I stepped in. Then I heard it. At first it was a muffled voice down the hall. A laugh that had the wrong shape. It was a voice that popped a bubble inside me. I knew that voice. It had the smoothness of the mayor, the way some men use their voice to open doors and break trust. I thought my ears were wrong. Maybe it was the TV across the street, someone on a call. But the laugh turned into words and the words walked into a place I did not want them to be. You won, the voice said. She won 50 million. We have to move fast. I felt my skin go tight. My breath came quick. Jalen squeezed my fingers so hard I thought they would crack. We followed the voice down the narrow hallway toward the back of the office where Darnell kept his private room. The door was open, the fluorescent light was already on, and there Darnell sat behind his desk but not alone. He sat with his coat half off and his phone pressed to his ear. He looked up when we came in. For one heartbeat his face held something between surprise and guilt, and then he closed his mouth like a door. Across from him, against the wall, sat a man I had seen at a few town events. Not someone from our small circle, yet familiar enough from shaking hands at fundraisers. His suit was too new for the office. He held a folder with our names somewhere on it. He was laughing still, like the laugh had found its favorite room. The man set down the folder and said into the phone, quietly so only those closest could hear, "We can make sure she does not get any of it. We can make that work." The world tipped. I do not remember if I said hello. I do not remember if Jalen said anything. They may have heard a chair scrape. Darnell's hand was on his knee. He looked at me and something small and brittle broke in his face. He said, in a voice that belonged to someone else, "Marcy, this is not the time. Not the time." Those words sank into me like nails. There was so much I did not understand. $50 million landed in my lap, and in the same breath I could hear a plan to keep me from it. My whole life had been built on moments where we survived by trusting each other. Now I had to stand in a room and pretend nothing had happened while these two men shared an agreement that smelled like betrayal. The stranger closed the folder. He called Darnell by a name I had never used. "Partner." He said, "We can handle the details. We have the papers. We can move quickly." Papers. The single word felt like a slap. I had never asked Darnell to sign anything fancy. I had never expected the person I married to be making deals behind my back. I stood there like a woman at the edge of a frozen pond, one foot on the ice, the other refusing to move. Jalen's jaw tightened. He looked ready to explode like a storm. Darnell's eyes finally met mine. He did not stand up. He did not reach for me. He said, quietly, "Do not do something you will regret." "Do not," he said, with a voice that sounded like warning and command. He pushed his chair back just a little and I could see his hands tremble. The man in the suit smiled the small smile of people who believe money is a tool you can use without needing to look into the center of a life. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them both exactly what I thought. But something in me had learned to watch and to listen and to count steps before striking. That old nurse habit of measuring the wound before you pull the bandage. So I did not yell. I did not cry. Instead, I reached for the paper cup of coffee on the corner of a desk and pretended to sip. I tasted bitter and it matched the way my throat felt. The man in the suit folded his hands on the folder and said, "If you let us act, we can secure everything. If you act without counsel, you might lose more than you think." His words were velvet, but his eyes were sharp. I felt something inside me harden like cement. $50 million suddenly looked like a field of knives, with people walking across it in shoes with soft soles. Jalen moved then. His voice was low but fierce. He said, in a way I had not heard my son speak since he was a boy defending his mother at a playground, "You are not taking her money." The man turned his head to Jalen, and for the first time I saw fear flicker across his face. Darnell looked down. The office was a small theater and we were all actors in a play someone else had written. What I heard next is what I cannot forget. The man in the suit leaned forward, his tone soft and careful, and said, "We already filed something. We filed a document this morning. It is ready to be signed. If we move quickly, we can have control before she cashes a check." The words crashed into me. Filed a document. Signed. Control. I felt the air go thin in the room. My knees almost buckled. I thought of every long night I had worked, every dollar we had saved toward college tuition, every birthday candle we had blown out for smaller wishes. I thought of being a woman who trusted that her life with her husband would not be arranged in secret folders. Darnell stood up then, the chair scraping like thunder. His face was pale and small, like someone who had been stripped of a coat in a storm. He did not look at me when he said, "Marcy, I can explain." Explain. The word floated between us like a bridge I did not want to cross without help. Jalen stepped in front of me. His shoulders were wide enough to block more than just the man in the suit. The man smiled again, but it was not a friendly smile anymore. It was the ugly recognition of a plan working. He said, "Then explain quickly. Time is money. Time is money." The phrase mocked me. I wanted to tell them that life is not a ledger to be balanced by people who do not know the weight of a woman's back. I wanted to tell them that winning should have been a light, not a trap. I took a breath and asked one question. My voice did not shake. though inside I felt a cyclone. Who filed what document this morning? And why would anyone think they can keep me from what I won? No one answered right away. The man's eyes flicked to Darnell. Darnell swallowed. He closed his eyes for a second, and when they opened again, something unreadable lived there. That is where I stop for now. I am still standing in the doorway of a room that smells like old coffee and new lies. My hands are still trembling. My son stands between me and men who fold lives into folders. $50 million is in my head and in a folder somewhere else. The question hangs in the air, heavy as a storm cloud. If you want to know what happened next, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave in the comments where you are watching from. Your support helps me tell the rest of this story. Jalen whispered, "Mama, do you trust him?" I looked at Darnell and at the man with the folder. I heard my own heart answering before my lips could move. I did not sleep the night after that confrontation in Darnell's office. Even when I closed my eyes, I kept seeing the folder on the table. The way the man in the suit smiled. The way Darnell looked away when I asked him a simple question. It all floated in my mind like smoke I could not wave away. But before I can tell you what happened after that moment, I need to take you backward a little. I need you to understand how a woman like me learned to survive storms long before money, secrets, and betrayal stood in my living room like uninvited guests. I was born into a family where nothing came easy. My mother, Essie Mae, raised 5 of us on a small patch of land in Alabama. My father left when I was 7. Mama used to say that life did not give warnings. It gave lessons. And you either learned them early or they came back harder later. I guess some lessons wait 40 years before they show their true shape. When I met Darnell Booker, I was 23. I had moved north to work as a nurse's aide at a retirement home. I remember the first time I saw him. He was standing outside a small office supply store holding a stack of boxes and pretending they weren't heavy. I offered to help because the top box was tipping. He laughed and said, "You're stronger than you look." He didn't know then that I had been carrying a whole family on my back since childhood. We married 2 years later. He was quiet, steady, and kind in a way that made me feel safe. He never yelled. Never cursed in my direction. He hung every picture in the house, fixed every squeaky drawer, and made sure my car's engine sounded smooth. We were not a perfect couple. But we were a stable one. Or at least I thought we were. There were times, early in our marriage, when Darnell would disappear into long silences. I used to think he was just tired from work. But now, looking back, I wonder if those silences were places where he hid his real thoughts. Places where I could not reach him. Jalen was born a year after our wedding. He came into the world with a loud cry and big eyes. Darnell held him like he was holding a promise. For years I believed that moment meant something unbreakable. That Darnell was a man who would protect his family above all things. But people change. Or maybe they reveal pieces of themselves slowly, like peeling layers off an onion until you finally reach the part that burns your eyes. The day after the office confrontation, Jalen came to my house early. He brought breakfast he knew I would not eat, but he tried anyway. He asked the same question he whispered in that office. "Mama, do you trust him?" I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the window, at the way the morning light tried to brighten the room even when my heart felt dark. Then Jalen told me the thing that pushed the story forward in a way I did not see coming. He said he overheard part of the conversation before we even stepped inside. He had paused at the door to shake off the cold, and that was when he heard the mayor's voice on speakerphone. He heard them talking about the winnings. He heard them say something about transferring assets. He heard them laughing about how most wives never understand legal papers anyway. That last part stabbed me. I have spent my whole life reading medication dosages and patient allergies. I know how to read important things. I know how to catch mistakes that could cost lives. But they were treating me like someone who could not understand the difference between a signature and a surrender. That same afternoon, my best friend from church, Loretta, stopped by. Loretta is the kind of woman who knows things before they happen. She can look at a person and tell you if they are lying, cheating, or about to fall apart. She sat on my couch and said, "Marcy, you need to get ahead of this situation. Don't let those men decide your life." I asked her how I could possibly get ahead when I didn't even know what papers had been filed. She told me something that changed everything. Her cousin works at the courthouse. She said she could ask him if any documents were filed under my name or Darnell's name. At that moment, hope felt like a thin thread, but it was something to hold on to. While we waited for her cousin to call back, I walked through my house slowly. Every picture on the wall seemed to whisper a different memory. Darnell holding Jalen at the beach. Our wedding photo where he could not stop smiling. Christmas mornings with gifts stacked under our old tree. I touched each frame and wondered which memories were real and which ones were built on secrets I never saw. When Loretta's phone finally rang, she put it on speaker. Her cousin sounded cautious but honest. He told us that paperwork had indeed been filed that morning. A document concerning marital assets. A document that would give someone else the right to make financial decisions for the household. But he said something that chilled me to my core. The document was filed with my signature already on it. My body froze. I felt like the ground left my feet. I had not signed anything like that. I had not even seen paperwork in weeks. The room spun, but I forced myself to breathe. Loretta looked at me with wide eyes. "Marcy, somebody forged your name." My heart cracked open. That was the moment the betrayal felt real. It was no longer a suspicion. It was a fact printed on courthouse paper. When Jalen heard, he slammed his hand on the kitchen counter and said we needed to sit down with a lawyer immediately. But I shook my head. Not yet. First, I needed to hear the truth from the man I built a life with. That evening, I called Darnell and told him to come home so we could talk. My voice was calm, but my soul was shaking. He arrived around 7, his shirt wrinkled, his tie hanging loose. He looked at me like he was preparing for a fight he did not want to have. I asked him one question. "Did you sign anything with my name on it?" At first, he tried to pretend he did not hear me. Then he sat down slowly. He rubbed his forehead. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. And then he finally said the words that made my stomach twist. "Marcy, I had no choice." No choice. Betrayal wrapped in 3 words. I leaned forward. My voice was calm like a blade. "What did you do?" Darnell took a long breath and said something that felt like the earth splitting under my feet. Something that changed the entire direction of this story. Something that will explain why he was sitting in that office with a stranger and a secret folder. He said, "I owe someone a lot of money. More than you can imagine. And if I did not sign that paper, we were going to lose the house." The house. The home I built with my bare hands and my tired feet. The home I worked double shifts for. The home I prayed over. The home where Jalen took his first steps. But before he could say more, before he could explain what he owed or who he owed, another voice cut through the room. A loud knock at the door. A knock that made Darnell's face go pale. He whispered, "They are here." Right then, I realized we were not dealing with simple betrayal. We were dealing with something darker. Something dangerous. And the man outside the door was not there for a friendly visit. The knock came again. Harder this time. Not the kind of knock a neighbor uses. Not the kind of knock a friend uses. It was the kind of knock that said, "Open this door or I will open it for you." Darnell's hands began to shake. His eyes darted toward the back of the house like he was thinking of running. I had never seen fear on his face like that. Not in all our years of marriage. Not even when he had surgery a decade ago. This was different. This was the fear a man carries when he knows he has done something that cannot be undone. I whispered to Jalen, "Stay behind me." His hand tightened on my arm. He whispered back, "Mama, do not open that door." But the knocking kept growing louder. 3 heavy blows. A pause. Then 2 more. Whoever was out there wasn't leaving. I looked at Darnell, and for the first time, He didn't look like my husband. He looked like a man drowning, desperate for air. He whispered, "Do not say anything. Do not tell them you know them." The words stuck in my chest. Before he could explain more, the door shook again. The sound was so strong it rattled the picture frames on the wall. I took a breath, reached for the handle, and opened the door just enough to see who stood outside. A man. Tall. Broad shoulders. Wearing a black winter coat even though the night was warm. His eyes were cold, sharp, and too familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. He wasn't a stranger. I had seen him before. Twice. Both times standing too close to Darnell outside the office building. I'd assumed they were clients. I never knew they were something else. He smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who has power over people and enjoys the way it feels. "Evening, Mrs. Booker." My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I didn't ask how he knew my name. He leaned forward just a little. "I need to speak with your husband." Darnell stepped beside me, trying to block the man's view of Jalen. His voice cracked, thin like old wood. "Kingston. Not here. Please. Not in front of my family." Kingston. The name was smooth and dangerous. It fit him. He pushed the door a little wider without waiting for permission. I had to plant my feet to keep from stumbling backward. Kingston's eyes scanned the living room like he was memorizing every corner, every weakness. He stepped inside before I could stop him. My house felt smaller with him in it. Darker. Like he carried a shadow behind him. He turned to me. "You won a lot of money, Mrs. Booker. Congratulations." My chest tightened. He knew. He knew about the winnings. He knew before half my family knew. How far did his hands reach? I didn't answer. I just stared at him because silence felt safer than opening my mouth. Kingston glanced at Darnell. "You told her yet?" Darnell shook his head. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "Not everything. Not everything." The words stung. Kingston sat on the edge of my sofa like he owned the place. He crossed his legs. He had the kind of confidence that came from being feared. Then he nodded at the front door. Two more men walked in. Both tall. Both quiet. Both watching us like hunters watch a cornered animal. Jalen moved closer to me. "Mama, we need to call someone." But Kingston lifted a hand casually. "I wouldn't do that." Something in the way he said it made my skin crawl. He turned his attention fully to Darnell. "Let's make this simple. You owe me money. A lot of money. And you had no way to pay it back. You begged for more time. I gave it to you. You missed the deadline again." I glanced at Darnell. His eyes stayed glued to the floor. Kingston leaned back and folded his arms. "But then something lucky happened. Your wife won a jackpot. $50 million. God must really like you." He smiled again. It was slow and wicked. "Now, all you need to do is sign a few papers. The ones I brought to your office. The ones your partner wants you to sign. Then we settle everything. Clean and easy." Partner. The same word the man in the office had used. My stomach twisted. Kingston then looked directly at me, and his voice changed. It softened, but the danger remained in every syllable. "Mrs. Booker, this does not have to be messy. All we need is your cooperation. You sign, and this debt disappears. Your husband can breathe again. Your house stays yours. Everyone walks away happy." Jalen stepped forward. "She is not signing anything." Kingston lifted a finger, and one of the men moved toward my son. My heart dropped. I grabbed Jalen's arm and pulled him behind me. Kingston sighed like we were annoying him. "I am trying to be respectful." He turned to me again. "If you do not sign, then I will have to take other measures. Starting with your husband. Then your home. And you do not want that." I felt anger rise in me like fire. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, To let anyone walk into my house and threaten my family. I stepped closer to Kingston. Closer than fear allowed. My voice was steady. Show me the papers. Darnell's head snapped up. Marcy, no. I cut him off with one look. Kingston nodded to one of the men. He reached into a folder and pulled out a stack of documents. Thick. Clean. Fresh. He placed them on my coffee table. The first page had my name on it in neat letters. But the signature at the bottom? It wasn't mine. Not my handwriting. Not my loops. Not my strokes. Someone had signed my name. Someone had pretended to be me. Someone had used my life to pay for their own mistakes. My hands shook. Rage burned through me. I turned to Darnell, my voice low and cutting. You did this. You let someone sign my name. He opened his mouth but nothing came out. Kingston stood up slowly. Well, now that we are all clear, you can sign the real papers. Tonight. He pushed the stack toward me. I stared at the papers. At my stolen signature. At Kingston's cold eyes. At the men blocking the doorway. At my husband shaking behind me. At my son ready to fight even though he knew he couldn't win. Then Kingston said something that froze my blood. And if you refuse, I cannot promise you will all live here safely another week. That was when I realized this was no longer about money. It was about survival. And I said something that surprised even me. I said, then I need to tell you something before I sign anything. Kingston raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what is that? I took a deep breath, looked at my trembling husband, and told Kingston something that made every man in the room freeze. Something that changed the direction of the story again. Something I had kept hidden even from Darnell. I said, I was not the only one who won money that day. Kingston's smile vanished. The room went silent the moment I said it. Even the air felt like it stopped moving. Kingston's smile slipped off his face like melted wax. The two men behind him shifted their feet. Darnell's head snapped toward me so fast I thought he would hurt his neck. I repeated myself, slowly this time, letting every word hit the room like a hammer. I was not the only one who won money that day. Kingston stepped forward until he was close enough for me to smell the cologne on his coat. It was sharp, cold, too clean for a man who made a living off other people's fear. What do you mean, Mrs. Booker? His voice was low, suspicious. Jalen stood behind me, tense and ready. He didn't know what I meant either. But he trusted me enough to wait. I looked straight at Kingston. Calm. Steady. The way I used to look at patients when they were scared and needed someone to anchor them. I mean that you are betting on the wrong thing if you think you're looking at one pot of money. Kingston blinked. His jaw twitched. He was off balance, and I felt it. He took one slow step toward me. If you are playing games with me, I promise you will not like how they end. I shook my head. No games. Just facts. Then I walked around him and picked up the documents he brought. I didn't read them. I didn't need to. I held them to my chest and spoke clearly. That money is not fully accessible yet. It has a processing period. A mandatory review. They have to confirm identity, confirm bank accounts, confirm the winner is mentally fit, confirm there's no fraud. Kingston narrowed his eyes. And that means your rush is useless. Silence again. Thick. Growing heavier. Then I said the part that changed everything. And I am not the only winner because the lottery made a mistake on the announcement call. They thought it was one jackpot. It was two. Jalen's mouth dropped open. Mama. I raised my hand gently at him. Trust me. Kingston stared at me like he was trying to peel the truth off my face. His voice was a low growl. Explain. Now. So I did. Earlier that morning, after the official call, I received a second call. A correction call. One I did not tell anyone about. Not even Jalen. There were two winners in my county. Two separate claims flagged. Two payouts under review. Only difference is this. I paused for effect. I know the other winner personally. Now fear, real fear, flashed across the man's eyes. He didn't like surprises. And he definitely didn't like the idea that someone else held money he didn't know about. Who? Kingston demanded. I smiled softly. A smile that wasn't about joy. It was about knowing I had just pulled the ground out from under him. A woman who cannot be bullied is a dangerous woman. That is confidential, I said. Kingston's nostrils flared. You expect me to believe this? You do not have to believe it, I answered. Because the lottery office will tell you the same thing if you try to force anything through. 2 claims. 2 winners. 2 investigations. He stared at me long and hard, searching for cracks. But I stayed still. My hands did not shake. My voice did not break. Then I added the final push. And the second winner already knows about you. A lie. But a powerful one. The room shifted sharply. Kingston stepped back. His men exchanged glances. Even Darnell looked confused, like he wasn't sure who I was in that moment. Kingston rubbed his jaw, thinking. He didn't like unknowns. Unknowns meant danger. Unknowns meant someone else might be watching. Someone he couldn't control. Then he pointed at the forged signature on the papers. His voice was tense now. This signature is on file at the courthouse. I nodded. Yes. And that will be your biggest mistake. He frowned. Why? Because if there is any investigation into the winnings, and there will be, everything tied to that forged signature will come to light. Every name. Every meeting. Every threat. I stepped closer to him. And forgery connected to a lottery claim that is federal. One of his men cursed under his breath. The other shifted uncomfortably. For the first time since he walked into my home, Kingston looked unsure. His abusive confidence cracked. This is not over, he said. I know, I replied. But it is not ending tonight. We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Kingston jerked his head toward the door. His 2 men moved immediately. As he stepped outside, he looked back at Darnell. Then at me. You bought time. That is all. But I will be back. I nodded. I know. He left. The door closed. His car engine rumbled away. The house fell into a deep, aching silence. Jalen exhaled like he had been holding his breath for 10 minutes. Mama, what just happened? I sat down slowly on the sofa. My whole body felt heavy. Darnell stood across the room, hands shaking, face pale, guilt written all over him. He whispered, "You lied to him." I looked up at him, calm. No. I bought us time. And time is the only weapon we have right now. Jalen dropped beside me, relief in his eyes. Mama, that was amazing. But I wasn't smiling. Because now it was time to face the next truth. I turned my eyes back to Darnell. You said you owed someone money. You said we would lose the house. Now you are going to tell me every detail. Darnell's shoulders sagged. He sat down like the weight of years finally caught up to him. It started 6 years ago, he said. 6 years. That number made my heart drop. 6 years of secrets. Darnell swallowed hard. I did not borrow money for myself. Then who? I asked. His answer knocked the breath out of all of us. I borrowed it. For someone you know. Someone you trust. Someone who will ruin your life if I say their name. My heart froze. Who? I whispered. Darnell lifted his eyes slowly. It was your brother. Everything inside me collapsed at once. My own brother. The man I had loved. Defended. Fed when he was broke. Helped when he was sick. The man I once believed would protect me as fiercely as I protected him. He was the one who dragged my husband into debt. He was the reason my house was at risk. He was the reason strange men were trying to take my life apart. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Kingston had done. And it was only the beginning. When Darnell said my brother's name, The world inside me cracked open. It felt like someone had dropped a stone into the deepest part of my chest, sending heavy circles of pain out in every direction. My brother. Out of all the people on earth who could have dragged my family into danger, it was him. I stared at Darnell, unable to form a full breath. Jalen muttered something under his breath and paced the living room, hands on his head. He couldn't believe it either. I finally found my voice. Tell me everything. No more hiding. No more half-truths. No more deals behind my back. Darnell nodded slowly, like a man preparing to confess his sins in church. It started 6 years ago, he said again. When your brother lost that construction job. You remember how he came to stay with us for a while? I nodded. Too fast. Too trusting. I had welcomed him with open arms. I cooked for him. Washed his clothes. Encouraged him. Told him life would get better. Darnell continued. He came to me one night, saying he had a business idea. A real estate flip project. He needed money for permits, materials, a contractor team. I told him we didn't have enough saved, but he said it was urgent. He said he had investors lined up. He said we'd make triple back. I closed my eyes. My brother always talked big. Always dreamed big. But he never had patience. Never had discipline. Never stayed long enough in one place to build something real. I whispered, so you gave him money? Darnell shook his head. Not enough. We didn't have enough. He said he needed more. He introduced me to someone who could lend it. He said it was safe. He said the man trusted him. He said we just needed to sign a temporary contract. My heart dropped. The man. Don't tell me. Yes, Darnell whispered. That man was Kingston. I covered my mouth. Kingston wasn't just someone Darnell met by accident. He wasn't someone who stumbled into our lives this week. Kingston had been circling our family for 6 years. Jalen sat down hard on the couch. Mama, we were in danger for years, and we didn't know. I opened my eyes slowly and looked at my husband. What happened next? Why didn't you tell me? Darnell buried his face in his hands. Because your brother swore he'd fix everything. Every month he told me he was handling it. Every month Kingston asked for more. The debt grew. And when I tried to walk away, Kingston said he'd come after you. I didn't want to drag you into this. I felt a wave of anger hit me. But under the anger, there was something else. Something colder. My brother used my husband. He used my home. He used my kindness. And he hid behind my name like a shield. I stood up. Where is he now? Darnell hesitated. That hesitation made my stomach twist. Where is he? I repeated. He swallowed. I think he's hiding. Hiding. Because he knew Kingston had come to collect. Because he knew danger was coming. Because he knew he had dragged us into a storm we never asked for. Jalen slammed his fist on the table. That coward left us here with the fallout. But Darnell wasn't finished. There's more, he whispered. I turned slowly. What do you mean more? Darnell lifted his shaking hand and pointed toward the hallway where our family photographs hung. Your brother didn't just borrow money. He signed something in my name. Something I didn't understand at the time. Something Kingston has been holding over me. Something that gave him the legal ground to file those new papers at the courthouse. My knees almost buckled. What kind of papers? Darnell swallowed hard. A document naming Kingston as a financial guardian. If anything happened to me. My breath caught. Financial guardian. For what reason would that give him access to our home, our accounts, our property? I whispered, Darnell. Did you sign away our house 6 years ago? He nodded slowly. I felt the blood drain from my face. You signed our home into someone else's hands to cover my brother's mess. He covered his face again. I didn't want to. I didn't understand what I was signing. I was desperate. He said it was temporary. He said he'd pay it back in full within a month. But he didn't. He ran. And Kingston kept the contract. Everything inside me felt like fire and ice at the same time. I walked to the hallway and stared at the pictures of my family. Birthdays. Holidays. Cookouts. Every single moment suddenly felt stained. My brother. My flesh and blood. The one Mama always told me to take care of. The one who always claimed he would change one day. He had thrown me into a ring with a dangerous man. And he didn't even warn me. I turned back to Darnell. I need to know something else. When Kingston said you were partners, what did he mean? Darnell looked ashamed. He offered me a way to reduce the debt. He wanted information about local properties. People falling behind on payments. People desperate. He wanted to buy them cheap. He used my office to funnel deals. My mouth dropped open. Darnell had been working with him. Feeding him leads. Helping him take advantage of struggling families. I felt sick. You helped him hurt people in our community. Darnell wiped his eyes. I was trying to protect you. I was trying to save our home. I was trapped, Marcy. I was trapped. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Thick. Unforgiving. Jalen spoke up softly. So Kingston doesn't just want Mama's lottery money. He wants control. Exactly, I said. Darnell nodded. And now that you won. Kingston sees this as his chance to collect everything at once. I walked back to the sofa, but instead of sitting, I stood tall. Then we need to find my brother. Immediately. Darnell looked panicked. No. You don't understand. If Kingston finds out you're looking for him. I cut him off. Kingston already threatened my family inside my own home. I am not waiting for him to come back. Jalen stood up beside me. We're not scared of him, Mama. Darnell shook his head violently. You should be. Because your brother. He didn't just borrow money. I turned slowly toward him. He borrowed it. For someone else. My heart stilled. Someone else who? Darnell looked at the floor. His voice was barely a whisper. Your brother wasn't working alone. I stepped closer. Then who was he helping? Darnell lifted his eyes. Someone you never thought would betray you. Someone who's been close to us for years. Someone who already knows about the $50 million. And they want it too. Before I could ask another question, the house phone rang. A sharp, loud ring that cut through the silence. I stared at the phone. And the name flashing on the caller ID. My brother. Calling me. Right now. This wasn't a coincidence. He knew something. He knew everything. And when I picked up that phone, the truth that came through the speaker changed the entire story again. The phone kept ringing, sharp and steady, like it was slicing through the air. I stared at the caller ID glowing on the screen. My brother's name. The brother I trusted for years. The brother who dragged my husband into debt. The brother who disappeared when danger came knocking. Darnell froze. Jalen stepped closer to me. The ringing felt louder with every second, like it was daring me to answer. I picked up the phone. Hello. For a moment, all I heard was breathing. Shaky, uneven, scared breathing. Then his voice broke through the line. Low. Ragged. Full of guilt and fear. Marcy. Don't hang up. My chest tightened. He never called me Marcy. Only Mama and Darnell did. So I knew something was wrong. Where are you? I asked. He sucked in a breath. Somewhere safe. Safe for who's safe from what? If you were safe, why did you leave us to deal with Kingston alone? But I didn't say that. Not yet. I asked the question that mattered most. Did you borrow money from Kingston? Silence. A heavy, guilty silence. Then he whispered, I'm sorry. Sorry was too small for what he put us through. Before I could say anything else, he continued. I didn't know Kingston would come after your house, Marcy. I didn't know he'd involve you. I swear I didn't. My fist tightened around the phone. My voice trembled, but not from fear. You didn't know, or you didn't care. He breathed hard. I cared. I cared too much. That's why I called. You're in danger. All of you. Danger. The word felt heavier coming from him than it had coming from Kingston. Jalen stepped closer, trying to listen. Darnell looked like he wanted to run out of the house and hide somewhere. I held the phone between us all. My brother whispered, "They found out you won, Marcy." Kingston wasn't supposed to know. Nobody was supposed to know. I felt my stomach drop. How did they find out? His voice cracked. Someone told them. Someone close to us. Darnell's head snapped up. Jalen froze. My breath caught in my throat. Who? I demanded. My brother took a shaky breath. Someone who's been around you for years. Someone who knew before the public announcement. Someone who stood in that office with your husband. I blinked. The office. The man in the suit. The smooth talker. The one who called Darnell partner. The one who had the folder. The one who laughed before he realized we were standing in the doorway. My voice sharpened. Are you talking about that man from the office, that partner or whatever he is? My brother swallowed loudly. His voice became a whisper. That man. That's not just Darnell's business partner. That's Kingston's handler. Kingston works for him. My heart stilled. The man in the suit wasn't Kingston's associate. Kingston was his. Jalen's eyes widened. Mama. I gripped the phone tighter. My voice dropped low. What does he want? My brother hesitated. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He wants everything you have. And he wants it before the lottery investigators finish checking your claim. If he gets it first, he keeps it. My knees trembled, but I forced myself to stand tall. Who is he? What's his real name? My brother whispered the name so quietly I barely heard it. Marcus Devlin. The name hit me like a slap. I knew it. Everyone in town knew it. A wealthy businessman. Big donor to the mayor. Board member at 2 banks. Owner of a string of real estate offices. A man who looked clean, rich, calm. The kind of man who wore suits worth more than my car. Darnell whispered. Devlin owns the building my office is in. He gave me a discount. He said he believed in small businesses. My brother choked. That discount wasn't kindness. It was bait. I swallowed hard. Why does Devlin want my lottery winnings? My brother hesitated. Because he's broke. What? Broke. Behind the scenes, he owes millions. Bad investments. Quiet lawsuits. Failed developments. He uses people like Kingston to collect money from families who are too scared to fight back. My heart pounded. So he wants me to sign those papers, so he can control every dollar I just won. Yes, my brother whispered. And he'll do anything to get it. Jalen's fist clenched. I'm calling the police. No, I snapped. Both Jalen and Darnell looked at me. My brother spoke quickly. Marcy, you can't call the police. Devlin has people inside. If you report something now, he'll know before the officer even leaves the station. I felt sick. Then why did you call? What do you want? He breathed hard. I want to help you. I want to make this right. I want to fix what I caused. But I need time. Time. Everyone seemed to be buying time from everyone. Tell me what you did. Tell me everything. My brother's voice shook. I gave Devlin your address. I told him about your routine. I told him when you'd be home. I told him when Darnell was at work. I didn't know he'd go this far, Marcy. I didn't know. My heart cracked in places I didn't know existed. You told him how to reach me. I didn't mean to, he whispered. I thought he just wanted to talk. I didn't know he wanted to take everything from you. Anger burned through me, hot and fierce. But I needed one last truth. Who is Devlin really after, me or Darnell? My brother hesitated. Then he whispered the truth. He is after both of you. But mostly, he wants your son. Jalen froze. What? My brother whispered urgently. Devlin found out Jalen works at the school. He thinks Jalen has access to vulnerable families. People who owe money. People who need help. Devlin wants Jalen to bring those families to him. Just like he forced Darnell to. I covered my mouth. No. Not my son. Not my baby. My brother's breathing got louder. I tried to stop it. I swear I tried. But now Devlin's men are looking for me. He thinks I know too much. And then his voice broke. Marcy. I think they found me. I straightened. What do you mean they found you? I could hear footsteps through the phone. A door slamming. A loud thud. My brother's breathing grew fast, terrified. He whispered, if anything happens to me, do not trust anyone who comes to your house. Especially if they say they want to help you. Devlin has people everywhere. My heart raced. Where are you? Tell me where. Before I could finish, I heard shouting. Then a crash. Then my brother screaming. Then the line went dead. The phone slipped from my hand. Jalen caught my arm. Mama, what happened? I looked at him, my eyes wide. They got him. Darnell whispered, oh God. I swallowed hard and stood tall. No more fear. No more running. No more waiting for danger to come knocking. Now I knew the truth. Devlin was the real enemy. And he was closer than any of us realized. I turned to Jalen and Darnell and said the words that started the next phase of our fight. Pack your bags. We are leaving tonight. We packed in silence. Not the quiet kind. The heavy kind. The kind that feels like the air itself is holding its breath. Jalen grabbed the suitcases from the hall closet while I went through drawers, taking only what we needed. Important papers. Identification. Medications. A few changes of clothes. Nothing extra. Nothing that would slow us down. Darnell moved slowly, like every step hurt. He kept rubbing his face with both hands, whispering that he was sorry, whispering that he never wanted this, whispering that he thought he could fix things before they reached us. But apologies could not undo the danger crawling toward our front door. I checked the windows twice. I kept turning off lights as we moved through the house, wanting the place dark, quiet, invisible. When I reached the photo wall in the hallway, I paused. My eyes lingered on pictures of birthdays, school plays, beach trips, Christmas mornings. Moments that felt safe once. Moments that felt true. But now I saw them differently. Not with anger. Not with regret. But with a strange understanding. Family can build you up. Family can break you down. And sometimes, family forces you into battles you never asked for. Jalen came to stand beside me. Mama, we have to go. I nodded. I grabbed one picture and tucked it into my bag. Just one. A reminder of what I was fighting for. We loaded the car quietly. The neighborhood was calm. Streetlights buzzed softly. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. It all looked so normal. You would never guess that the people inside our house were running for their lives. Once the bags were in the trunk, Jalen got behind the wheel. Where are we going? He asked. I gave him the only answer that made sense. South. Darnell frowned. South where? To the only person in the family who knows how to disappear without losing herself. My Aunt Lydia. Aunt Lydia lived 3 hours away in a small town near the state line. A retired correctional officer. Tough. Smart. Hard to fool. She loved quiet, but she always kept her doors locked and her eyes open. If danger was coming, she would sense it before it reached the driveway. As Jalen pulled onto the highway, I kept glancing at the rearview mirror. Every pair of headlights made my chest tighten. Every car that stayed behind us too long made my heart jump. Darnell turned in his seat to face me. Marcy, we need a plan. We need protection. We need to talk to someone we trust. I shook my head. We cannot trust anyone right now. The police are compromised. The mayor is connected to Devlin. Kingston has men everywhere. And my brother. My voice cracked for the first time that night. Jalen reached over and touched my hand gently. Mama, we are going to get through this. I nodded, but my mind was racing ahead. Thinking. Planning. Seeing every possible move before it reached us. When we finally reached Aunt Lydia's house, it was nearly midnight. Her porch light was on, glowing like a beacon. The moment I stepped onto her porch, the door opened without me knocking. She looked at me once and knew. Her eyes went cold. Who is after you? I swallowed. It is a long story. She stepped aside. Then you better start talking. Inside, her house smelled like honey, lavender, and furniture polish. A soft lamp glowed in the corner. The place felt safe. Like nothing could break in without a fight. We sat at the kitchen table. Lydia crossed her arms and waited. I told her everything. From the moment I got the call about the $50 million, to the moment Kingston walked into my home, to the moment my brother screamed through the phone, to the last thing he said before the line went dead. Lydia didn't interrupt. She didn't react. She listened like a soldier being given a mission. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Devlin, she said. I know that name. Too well. My eyebrows lifted. How? He tried to buy land from some seniors in this town years ago. Pressured them. Made threats. I shut that down. He has friends in high places. He does not like being told no. Jalen exhaled. Great. So he knows this area. Lydia shook her head. He knows the town. He does not know me. She stood, walked to her pantry, and pulled out a locked metal box. When she opened it, I saw files neatly stacked inside. Real estate reports. Business scandals. News clippings. A thick envelope labeled Devlin. You have been keeping records, Jalen said. I keep records on anyone who preys on vulnerable people, Lydia replied. She opened the envelope and flipped through documents. Then she placed 3 papers on the table. This is what Devlin does. He targets people who are desperate, sick, alone, behind on bills. He offers help. Then he owns them, piece by piece, until they cannot breathe without him. My throat tightened. He tried to do that to us. Lydia nodded slowly. And he forges signatures. More than once. There were cases that never made the news. Jalen leaned forward. So how do we stop him? Lydia's voice lowered. You do not stop a man like Devlin by running. You stop him by finding his weakness. Every powerful man has one. Sometimes it is money. Sometimes reputation. And sometimes a secret he does not want anyone to know. Darnell whispered. He wants our $50 million. Lydia shook her head. No. That is not his weakness. That is his goal. Something else is holding his empire together. Find that. And you take him down. Before I could respond, we heard tires outside. All 4 of us froze. A car door shut. Then another. Jalen moved toward the window. Lydia grabbed his arm and pulled him back. Do not look, she whispered. They might see your shadow. My heart pounded. Had Devlin already found us? How did they follow us here? Lydia reached under her table and pulled out something heavy. A steel baton. She flicked it open with one sharp motion. Stay quiet, she whispered. Footsteps approached the porch. Slow. Steady. Too confident. Someone knocked. 3 times. Firm. Certain. The knock of someone who was not afraid of whatever was on the other side. My breathing stopped. Lydia whispered, do not speak. Do not move. Then a calm voice drifted through the door. A voice that made every muscle in my body tense. Mrs. Booker. It was Marcus Devlin. He found us. Again. He continued, I am not here to cause trouble. I am here to offer you one final choice. My skin prickled. His voice lowered. Open the door, or I break it down. Lydia raised the baton. Jalen grabbed my hand. Darnell whispered, God help us. I stood. My voice was steady, even though my heart was trembling. This man chased me out of my own home, threatened my family, destroyed my trust, forged my signature, created danger everywhere I walked. But something inside me changed tonight. Fear had burned away. What stayed behind was strength. I stepped toward the door. Lydia grabbed my arm. Marcy, no. I whispered, I am done running. When I reached the door, Devlin spoke again. His voice was calm. Too calm. You have something that belongs to me. I placed my hand on the doorknob. Then I spoke the truth that changed the direction of the story once again. No. You have something that belongs to me. Silence. Then Devlin asked slowly, what do you mean? I leaned closer to the door and whispered, I know what you are hiding. And I know who you are protecting. Devlin did not speak for a full 3 seconds. Then he said quietly, open this door. Now. But I stepped back. For the first time I had the power. Devlin's voice on the other side of the door grew darker. Mrs. Booker, open this door before I lose my patience. I didn't move any closer. I didn't back away. I stood still, calm, steady, ready. A woman who has been pushed too far is not someone you threaten. Behind me, Lydia whispered, Marcy, say the truth. I nodded. I was ready. Devlin knocked once. Slow. Cold. Then he said the words that revealed everything about him. I don't know what you think you found, but you don't have anything. I took a breath and spoke through the door. Yes, I do. I know your secret. I know who you are protecting. And I know why you need my winnings before the investigation finishes. Silence dropped over the porch. Even the crickets outside seemed to stop singing. Then I said the sentence that broke his mask completely. I know you and the mayor are laundering money through the families you steal properties from. Jalen gasped. Darnell froze. Lydia tightened her grip on her baton. Devlin's voice cracked. Just once. Where did you hear that? I stepped closer to the door. Your mistake was threatening my home, my family, my life. So I made calls. I asked questions. And I found someone who knew every detail of your operation. Inside the house, Jalen whispered, Mama, who did you talk to? I didn't answer. Not yet. Devlin's breath turned sharp. No one knows anything about my business. I smiled softly. One person does. Your own accountant. And he told me everything. Devlin's composure shattered. That's impossible. He would never. You should choose your partners better, I said gently. Especially the ones whose families you threatened. Behind the door, I heard footsteps shifting. A deep exhale. A curse under his breath. He knew I wasn't bluffing. He knew I had the truth. And truth is poison to men like him. Then I delivered the final blow. Before we left town, I sent all the evidence to federal investigators. And they already opened an emergency review of every document connected to you. Every forged signature. Every illegal contract. Every property transfer. Every debt you forced out of desperate families. Silence. A deadly, heavy silence. Then I said, and the lottery office was copied on the email. Which means they know about the forged signature. They know about Kingston. And after tonight, they know where to find you. Devlin let out a sound that didn't even sound human. A mix of rage, shock, desperation. He slammed the door once with his fist. Then again. Then again. The wood shook. But Lydia stood beside me like a soldier ready for battle. Finally, Devlin spoke in a voice that trembled with fear and fury. You don't know what you've done. You think this is over. Mrs. Booker, this is war. I stepped closer, placed my hand on the door, and whispered the truth I had learned too late in life. No. This is justice. Behind me, Lydia flipped the safety latch on the old backcountry shotgun she kept tucked near the pantry. Devlin heard it. And he went silent. For the first time, he was afraid. He whispered through the door, low and shaky. This isn't finished. Not yet. I replied. It will be finished when the law reaches you. And they are already coming. Another long silence. Then the sound of shoes backing away from the porch. Slow. Uneasy. Defeated. His car engine started. He drove off without another word. When the sound faded completely, Lydia turned to me. Marcy, what evidence did you send? There was fear in her voice. I walked to the kitchen table, opened my bag, and pulled out a small flash drive. The one my brother left at Mama's old house 3 months ago. The one I thought had old family photos on it. The one I never opened. Until 2 nights ago. I held it up. This. He had everything stored on here. Names. Accounts. Emails. Evidence of every crime Devlin committed. My brother wasn't running from me. He was running from Devlin. And he tried to warn me before they caught him. Jalen whispered, Mama. Did they kill him? I paused. My eyes burned. My chest tightened. Then I shook my head slowly. No. The investigators tracked his phone after the call dropped. He's alive. In protective custody. He is safe now. Jalen let out a breath he had been holding for hours. Darnell sat down and covered his face with shaking hands. Then Lydia asked softly, Marcy, what happens now? I looked at my son. My husband. My aunt. The family that stood with me through fear, betrayal, danger, and truth. And I said, now, we rebuild. We learn from this. We stay together. We walk into our future with strength. And when the investigation is complete, we take our winnings and start a new life. A life Devlin can never touch. Jalen hugged me tight. Mama, you saved us. You saved everybody. But I wasn't thinking about saving. I was thinking about surviving. About becoming stronger. About choosing peace after walking through fire. The next morning, we drove back home together. Not as victims. As victors. The investigation went public. Devlin was arrested. Kingston disappeared. Our home was safe. Our names were cleared. Our future was ours again. I walked into my living room, looked around, and whispered, Thank you, Lord, for giving me the strength to fight back. Then I turned on my camera, looked straight into the lens, and said the words meant for every viewer who stood with me through this journey. If you want more powerful stories like this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification button so you never miss a new one. And please tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Your support keeps this channel alive. And just like that, my nightmare ended. And my new beginning started.